coming out of university, you don't have work experience. Now, grad programs don't expect you to have any, junior positions don't expect you to have any. But everyone else that's applying is just as smart as you. They have the same qualifications as you, sometimes even better. So you can't just rely on your degree to move you forward. There needs to be something unique, something special about you. Let's go for it.
Okay. Yeah. So the transitioning from varsity into corporate, how was that for you, and what can you say about that?
So I think this is going to sound very strange, but one of the things that I struggled with the most was waking up in the morning. I know that sounds weird, but because, from university, I was so used to going to bed at 3 in the morning and waking up at 10 for your 11 a.m. lecture. And now you come to a place where I have to wake up at 6 o'clock every day. Again, I know that shouldn't be something that bugs you, but I think it was definitely one of the things that I struggled with the most. I think from university, there's a lot of freedom that you have. Just in terms of when you want to study, and if you don't want to go to class, you don't go to class. It's not recommended, but we all know that's what happens. Whereas with work, you can't skip work, and it's not to say like I have to be here this time and end at this time. No, we are very more of a performance-driven environment than anything else. But it's definitely a change, and I think just not wearing your hoodies every day. You've got to dress properly. Put your suit on. It's completely different. I think you're from an environment where you sort of do whatever you want when you want it, and you're coming to a place that's now very serious, very formal, and I think there's a lot of other things that's different. Your friends are no more there. Now you've got work colleagues, and it's in a way sometimes also a little bit lonely. I think very much so, as when you went to high school, you sort of leave your friends and everything behind, especially if you're moving to another town or another city. And now you're sort of starting afresh from the beginning. And I think jumping to work can be very well like that as well. But I think you just have to realize that it's something that everyone goes through. You're not alone, with whatever you're feeling, because the transition is difficult. I think it's also, maybe to add on, one of the other things that bugged me a lot was at school, we know how we're doing. You have a mark, you get your test result back and it says, okay, cool, 75% distinction. Awesome. You've done a good job. Whereas at work, you don't know. Yes, you have performance reviews, once or twice a year, but in between, you don't know whether, especially when you first get there, whether what you're doing is right, or are you dealing with the right people? Are you putting in enough effort? Are you working hard enough? Those are all type of questions that are going to be running through your mind. Because at the end of the day, you want to, impress your boss, you want to impress the people around you. There's nothing that really puts a star on your head that says good job, So I think, coming down to now, sort of advice is, I think open communication is important. You want to try and find a team or a manager to work with that you can actually speak with. I think a lot of the time we very often want to jump for the first job offer that we get. And I think a lot of the time, coming out of university, you're thinking about money and status, but at the end of the day, we're forgetting the important things like what is the work that we're actually going to be doing? Do we enjoy that type of work, and do we enjoy the environment, the culture, and the people that we're going to be working with? And I think that is something a lot of grads just really take into account, is that it's not just about the prestige or the money. It's also about whether you're going to enjoy yourself, because you're going to be spending a lot of time at work. You're going to be spending a lot of time with the people that you work with. So you want to make sure that it's also an environment where you yourself can grow, you can learn, there's a good line of open communication. I think that's important. But I think you also need to remember that coming out of university, you don't have work experience. Now, grad programs don't expect you to have any junior positions, don't expect you to have any. But everyone else that's applying is just as smart as you. They have the same qualifications as you, sometimes even better. So you can't just rely on your degree to move you forward. There needs to be something unique, something special about you. And, just little things. Like, what do you do in your spare time? Look at your hobbies, look at what your extracurricular activities are. Because I feel like that very often tells a better story about who you are and your personality than what degree you have. Because at the end of the day, from an employer's perspective, they're not just looking for the smartest person in the room. They're not. And very often, if you're the smartest person in the room, but you're not a nice person to work with, you're not going to get a job. You really aren't. If you can't, have, what's the word that I'm looking for? If you can't assimilate to a corporate culture, you're not going to get that job. If you can't speak and be confident, and I'm not saying that you can't be shy or something, but it's something that you need to work with. You need to work on. I think just try put your best self out there, put your best foot forward. It's not just about the degree. Show people what makes you fun, what makes you interesting, and you'd be surprised. I mean, a lot of the interviews that I went to, people were more interested in my martial arts experience and whatever else it might be. No one's really interested in, can we not say no one, but I think when you're going up against all these candidates that have the exact same type of qualification, you need to find something that's going to make you stand out from the crowd, from the group, because you are applying for jobs where thousands and thousands of people are applying. Make yourself unique. And I think, brush up on some of your soft skills, because in a lot of graduate programs, sort of once you pass the interview stage, you are going to potentially be doing things like presentations. Some might be prepared, some might be sort of, they give you 5 minutes and you must present on something. You might get, assignments that are done in groups. You might get case studies that you have to do. So just try and get into a habit of also building up some of those type of skills, because you never know what's going to be thrown at you. You also very often might be dealing with, people who are psychologists, and, they also sort of, might be looking at your interview process in a different way that we might normally be looking at. Very often it's not about getting the right answers, but about how you get to the answer and your logical thought process of actually getting there. So even if you don't get the right answer, but if you're showing that you can think logically about how to find a solution, that's much more important. If you can show that, I don't know how this works, but you have the ability to learn and figure out, you have the desire to actually want to learn, I think that's important. You need to show your potential employer that you're actually interested in the job, that you want to be there. So do your research. Don't just blindly apply for every job that you see. Look at the company, research them, look at the role. Just learn as much about them as you can, so that when you get there, you can actually impress them, show them that, you've you actually want to be there and you didn't just see a job but click apply and then move on to the next one. So work on your cover letter. I think we very often, put a lot of emphasis on the CV, which is important, right? You do need to have your CV, nice and neat and professional with no spelling mistakes. Make sure your most important information is sort of put first, etc. That's a whole nother story about, CV writing. But I think that's something that I've seen that a lot of graduates don't do properly, is actually write a proper CV and just ask. There's so much information, online, or, even just have a chat with the recruiter. They have ideas. Just, if you don't know how to do it, ask, is what I'm saying. And once that's all sorted, you need to realize that now there's other people who've done the same thing. So you need to put in effort into that cover letter as well. Not everywhere will ask for one. Some places might not even look at them, but you never know. You don't know what, sort of HR is looking for when you actually apply to a certain company. So whatever you do, everywhere you go, just make sure you put all your best foot forward. For me personally, I like cover letters. I think it shows a lot more about the person than just reading, okay, they went to this university, they studied this degree, and that's about it. It's not going to land you a job necessarily, but any little extra that you can do, is going to give you a little bit of a better chance of making it to the interview stage. And then in terms of interviews, you've got to make sure that you're on time, you're dressed appropriately, you listen to the type of questions, try answer them as best as you can. Never say you don't know. Don't lie, but if you don't know the answer to a question, explain how you're going to figure it out. And if there's really a question that stumps you, don't be shy to go home, do your research, and email them with the solution, an hour later. And just all those little things are just showing that you care. Honestly, I can have a whole another hour conversation about, interview prep and CV writing and things like that. That's a whole nother conversation. But I think, the important thing is do your homework. Don't just blindly rock up and think that's that. Take the effort to, practice your interview skills and don't be afraid to just ask for help, because a lot of the time, these are the things that you're going through for the first time, and, first impressions do matter. So yeah, I think that's the, sort of the best piece of advice that I can give sort of, in a nutshell.